How's that cacao?
Amazing.
Yeah. Let me guess. You got it from Third Eye?
No,
No.
it's just powdered cacao from Ecuador.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I've gotten a few bags of cacao from Third Eye the past few weeks. There's Shilajit.
Shilajit, yeah, very good
Shilajit.
for men.
Yeah, do you know, can you describe what Shilajit? Yeah,
No.
you don't know?
No. Are we recording?
Yeah, let's just go.
I didn't
Let's
know
just do it.
that.
We're easing into it.
I didn't know that we had already started. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. No, I've never really researched about Shilajit. I know that it's really good for males specifically, and I think testosterone, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I heard someone told me that it helps with if you have glyphosate in your system. Kind of cleanses the glyphosate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, something that I learned. But it's found in the Himalayas, the mountains.
Is it a salt? Isn't it like a black salt?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of rare.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive, but it seems like it does magic, but I don't know much about it. Michelle, thank you so much for joining today. First, Squatch Radio Room recording. That it was fitting.
Yeah.
As I begin this podcast journey.
Very fitting. Yeah. Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done 6 episodes, mostly focused on Bitcoin related subjects. And that was at the studio at the Bitcoin Commons. But this seems to be like divine timing. The radio room has opened up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this podcast endeavor kind of started after one of your MetaMen retreats. And it just seemed like great timing. The alignment was right. After the first MetaMen retreat that I went on, Danny Miranda was here. And I've been following him for, I would say, at least half a year, watching his growth. And I remember him saying something along the lines of, I'm going to build this podcast in public for people to see and to be able to utilize the techniques that I'm utilizing and to see the failures or the way that he's just trying to do it, which was really cool. But at that time, I didn't really have like a huge desire to do a podcast at the time. But it slowly started to creep up, and it seemed like it was something that I wanted to do. It was like a calling. And so after the MetaMen retreat in San Marcos, it was a whole day. And I drove back, and I think I just wanted to play some basketball. And he was here. And so shout out to Danny Miranda podcast. But it felt right because during the MetaMen retreat, we had a few sessions of connecting, and towards the end, we were I'm trying to remember, I think it was alignment, action.
Yeah, awareness, acceptance, aligned action. And I think in that specific retreat, was it Q1 maybe or Q4?
I thought it was in September.
Maybe
Q3.
Yeah, but I know you've been to like 2 of 3 of them.
I'm going to be going to the third one
in Q1.
Yeah.
I think that podcast came with like stepping into your power. I think we did the numbers. Did we do that? Playing all out?
We did that the second time.
Okay,
I don't know if we did it the first, but
okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think this idea had been sprouting within you for a while, and that kind of allowed you to create momentum. And then the serendipity of seeing Danny Miranda the next day, who was visiting Austin. He wasn't living here yet.
Yeah.
And then immediately you had a conversation with him about your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I hadn't started the podcast at that time, but I saw him. I knew who he was. I recognized that he was a podcaster. And I had just made this kind of manifestation or at least intention
calling it in
to do it. Noah was there, I think, and a few others at the MetaMen retreat. But so I talked to Danny. We exchanged numbers, told him what I wanted to do. He was super just encouraging and supportive. He was just like, do it, man. Like, just get in the iterations. But it just felt right. It was just interesting how the timing happened. That afternoon after the Mediman retreat, I just felt very like I felt grounded, which means you did your job very well.
Yay.
But yeah, ever since then, I've kicked this thing off, and it's been a big learning lesson. I'm constantly molding and sculpting and asking questions on how this is going to shape out. And I think it just takes time, iterations. I think, I brought this notebook with some notes. I did a little bit of research.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I also, the past few podcasts, I bring the notes with me, and what I've noticed is it's a good reminder to show you, what topics you may want to discuss. But I find myself relying too much on it. So I wanted to test out just having it here, but also just being fully present 100% and just truly listening to the guests. Because at times people, when they're starting off, at least for me, you're just kind of like, do I have enough questions? Do I have enough to say? Kind of like overthink it a little bit, at least from, my point of view. But it's a kind of like you're figuring this friend of mine said you're figuring out your own genius.
Yeah. Well, I first want to acknowledge you for taking the step of courage to follow that intuitive impulse. And if anyone in your audience has a calling to create something into existence, as you said, you talked about overthinking and overcoming fears. Like yes, your podcast, and let's say that, I know it's going to grow and whatever the result is, but it's the journey itself of you facing yourself and your shadow and that inner voice that may, the inner voice that may criticize what you're doing and the inner voice that really deeply wants this. And that's the gift of you going into this journey. So it's very inspiring. Not only for me, but I'm sure for people that are also thinking about starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really loved about your first episode with that podcaster.
Yes, my buddy Jose.
Yeah, I really enjoyed when he immediately just told everyone, like, if you want to start a podcast, start a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, just let your voice be heard. And that really resonated with me. So yeah, just wanted to take that time to acknowledge you and for having me here. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's I'm constantly questioning, my vision of this podcast, why I'm doing it, trying to make sure that the intention and the purpose behind it is, virtuous, but also, there's a good intention. It's not just to kind of, I know we all want to be seen, we all want attention, we all want to be loved, but a part of me wanted to, follow this route of just creative content. And I mean, I love my 9-to-5 right now. I work for a Bitcoin company. Out of any company I've worked for, this is something that aligns with my beliefs. The people I work with are fantastic. I get along very well with them. And it's a small company, so it provides a greater sense of impact with my individual actions and my day-to-day responsibilities. But there is this notion, this desire to want to be able to go about an entrepreneurial path that allows me the ability to freely create what I want to create. So the podcast is a step towards that.
100%.
It could go towards other directions. And it's cool to see like CJ's doing this. Yash just created his podcast, the Serendipity Chronicles. And it just seems like this part of the US is like kicking off for podcasting and just creators.
Innovators. Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited. So yeah, before we get into like MetaMen, I thought it'd be great to just have you introduce your background. So there's a part of your About Me on your website
Mm-hmm.
that says, ask me if you want the longer story
Yeah.
of, your journey being an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
So moving from
Colombia. Mm-hmm.
with your family, and, you still described it in a great way, but I would love to hear the longer part of it.
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was born in Colombia, and I always get the question, like, are you sure? Like, raised in Colombia? Just because of the way that I may look.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up there in a middle class income family in Bogota, the capital. And then at the time, Colombia was going through a lot of economic and political corruption. I mean, it still is, but it was it was pretty bad, very unsafe. I remember having classmates whose parents got kidnapped and having car bombs in the news, like being quite common.
Damn.
And that was what I grew up with the news of, like, who knows what's the next car bomb that's going to blow up or the next thing. Just very guarded. Didn't feel safe growing up, not in my neighborhood, but just in the country. And so I think my parents looked at each other and said, we need to do something for our families and for our daughters. And I think for any immigrant parent, like, what courage to choose to go to a different country, not speak the language, start from zero, sell all your things. It's just, for me, it's crazy. Where right now I could do that, but I'm thinking with children, it takes a lot of courage. So then I moved here when I was 12 years old. I knew some English. I knew how to read English. I knew how to write English. My English was not good. It was not good. It's kind of like when you take Spanish classes in high school and then you go to a Spanish speaking country and you're like, yep, my Spanish classes are not supporting me for this. And so as a 12-year-old, I kind of had to learn really quickly how to adapt, how to be really resourceful, how to figure things, a lot of things on my own. And that's been both a gift and now my opportunity for growth. And, part of the reason why I decided to become a coach for innovators and creators, it's because growing up as an immigrant conditioned me to perform out of survival. For me, getting good grades, for me, getting into a good college meant quite literally how it was going to keep myself from not being completely poor or, my parents didn't have the financial stability to put me through college or to sometimes support me with some of my basic needs. So for me, hard work meant survival. Right. And so I kind of conditioned myself high school to make sure I was the best student so I could get into the best college, and got into a really good college, A&M, into the engineering program, and did engineering. I hated engineering. Hated it.
Really?
Yes, I hated engineering. It was grueling for me. I was good at it. I'm good at numbers. Okay. I'm really good at numbers, and I'm really good at systems, and I'm really good with science too. So I was good at it. It just wasn't exciting for me. And graduated from college.
Wait, so what aspect of engineering?
Industrial. Oh, what was your question? What aspect of engineering did I not like?
No, just what wasn't like computer science. You said it's industrial.
Oh, okay. So yeah, industrial engineering, which focuses on systems and operations. So I can look at a warehouse, I can look at a supply chain, and I can tell you how to optimize the systems and the processes and like lean process improvement and Six Sigma, all these things. So I did supply chain consulting, chain tech consulting, deploying complex warehouse management systems. I don't know if you know this background about me.
I mean, I had an idea you were into engineering. I think because you connected with someone in the sauna at one point, you were talking about it, but I didn't know if you were actually like still implementing this skill and knowledge that you have in your day to day.
No, I was mostly change management, which is what led me to a lot of coaching, but basically deploying software, without getting into the details of that. My consulting career was a lot of grind and really good pay. And as an immigrant, for me, it was like, whoa, like I'm getting 6 figures and getting the company credit card and traveling every week and collecting credit card point. And, I thought it was the best initially. And, 4 years later, burned out, I realized that I don't love what I'm doing, that I had been doing it because it's what I thought I should do with all the hard work that I did. It's like I did all of these years of studying and things, and here I am in my dream job, and it felt quite miserable, even though I loved who I worked with. I didn't love what I was doing because I always knew within me that my deepest calling was to support humans in bettering themselves. And that's something that's always been within me, People ask me, how did you know you wanted to be? I'm like, I've always wanted to. I didn't know that it was called a coach. To this day, I don't even sometimes use the word coach. I just always knew that I wanted to support people and become better persons one way or another. I didn't know what it was going to look like. And in some ways, as a consultant, I was doing that. Any way that I could, beyond the tech, anytime that I could do any kind of like leadership development workshops or training programs, like that was really exciting for me. But it was still very technical and very not soul or heart-centered oriented for me. And you want to hear how I went from supply chain as a coach?
Yeah, we could get into that. Just to comment on an aspect of it, it's like you are one in, hundreds of millions or billions of people that are probably still in this scenario. They're doing something that provides them external material success, and in the eyes of the people that they love, it looks great. But they're quietly potentially suffering because they're not
suffering and like accepting this as this is it. Like this is my reality. And I remember feeling that, and you're totally right. Also, people that feel that this is their duty or responsibility. I felt some sense of responsibility as well, of like, if I worked this hard, if I paid all these money to college, like this is what I need to be doing. So if there's anyone in your audience that's in this place, one of the biggest gifts that I gave myself was to say no to what didn't feel in alignment, even though externally it paid. It did. We're so privileged, especially here in the US, that we do have permission to say no to these things. Like there are so many opportunities. I truly believe that. And coming from Colombia, I'm like, there's certain circumstances, but I do believe that if you live here in the US, you have boundless opportunities to create your own reality and destiny.
Especially, I mean, it's 10x now. Even if you were in the US a few decades ago, compared to now, it's like 10x because of the internet.
Yeah.
Like you have so many resources.
So much, yeah.
So many. I mean, you can literally build your career, build your life, a part of your life, just anywhere you want, just with your computer. So, I mean, and even if people around the world, they're, this could be, they could be in a circumstance where their career does fill their soul, but there's maybe another aspect of their life. Maybe it's relationships or some other aspect that isn't helping them be a higher form of themselves, or just it doesn't feel right. Like you have the opportunity to walk away and say no and build at any time.
Yeah, and take that risk.
Yeah, and he kind of deems himself an angel investor, but he's also like a philosopher, Naval Ravikant. I'm sure a lot of people here have heard of him. And he talks about this kind of analogy of someone climbing a mountain, and they're climbing and they're climbing and they're climbing for a long period of time, and they get 2/3 up the mountain, and they realize at that point that they can't proceed to the top. They have to go back down, but they know the route to go all the way to the top. Mm-hmm. And some people just don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to continue or just like take a step back, reflect, plan, and create action items, because there is a lot of fear towards that.
Yeah, and experiment. I mean, I'm the kind of person that takes the leap and hope. I grow wings, and I've learned to take more of a middle way, but sometimes just taking that leap of faith, and even if you fall on your face, the growth that you experience within, it's quite powerful, and you'll never be the same person again, which is what you're doing here with this podcast.
Yeah.
Just taking that leap of faith and realizing that you can build a relationship with your fears. They don't have to go away, but in some ways they're leading the way towards where your growth is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so all the power to your parents and yourself, your family, for doing that.
And for any immigrant, I have so much respect for immigrants, for sure, in any part of the world. Yeah.
So if you want to dive into making that transition into coaching.
Yeah. So as I said, I think I really believe that life is so intelligent and benevolent that life has been training us to do what we're meant to do since they were born. Like I think I've been trained my whole life to be a coach or a guide of some sort. And so there's no specific part of my story that I'm like, yes, I'm going to be a coach. I think it's just been a beautiful, even just the household in which I grew up with. My dad is a huge influence in my life. So it's all been like beautifully evolving to this point in my life. But really but there's always this moment of like this catalyst moment, kind of like the hero's journey, where you go through this, I think it's called the abyss. And my abyss was having complete burnout. Just like, I remember just feeling so tired and depleted and just like almost like crying in my car. Like I want to get out of this job. I was choosing not to because I was going through an immigration process. So legally I could, but I should not leave my job. So I did feel like I have some kind of shackles. But at the same time, what you said and what you're doing right now is what I would also tell anyone who's looking to spark that fire, like this fire. Just start with one small action, one little thing, one book, one podcast episode. If you are into fitness, guide one workout with your friends. Just like start, because that little fire is going to ignite. And before you know it, like you have no choice but to go that way. So that's how I kind of started, where I got really into certain self-development books and then courses. And then when COVID hit, I decided to start to teach breath work, because breath work was one of the most powerful things that I experienced for my own healing experience. And going back to the abyss part, after burnout, after going through a really rough breakup, after going through actual like physical and emotional trauma in my body, after a really invasive surgery, I just remember feeling like a complete death of self. And that's where my new identity was born, where I decided, I was like, okay, from this rock bottom place, who am I choosing to be moving forward? And And I told myself that I wanted to align with my purpose. And so then I started teaching breathing classes and people started to love them. They received so much beautiful feedback, and it was perfect because at the same time this can't breathe movement was going on. People were getting super anxious about COVID, and the whole fear that was being spread. People were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die!" And so I started doing free breathing classes, and that led to a lot of people giving me positive feedback, and the breathing led to coaching training, and it was like this really big snowball effect that has led today to 3 years of coaching. And I am so humbled by the journey itself because I know it's just starting. And with MetaMen, I have a really big vision when it comes to that. And so it's so beautiful to see life unfold magically, just as you started with this one episode, the next episode, then you meet the other person. It's just like this beautiful tree that begins to grow. It just starts with that one small step. Yeah, that one small, like, intentional action and consistency. And of course, the right community and people and environment for this seed to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people probably face a defining moment during COVID and all the, there was a combination of worry between the actual virus itself, and also the social implications of George Floyd. And then already, from then to decades before, we've growingly become more hostile here and divided politically in the U.S.
Yeah. So. And awakened, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for the whole experience.
Oh, same.
Everyone's waking up. Everyone's looking at alternative ways of creating freedom for themselves. It's a perfect collective representation of that abyss moment. That's actually perfect. That this COVID was an abyss moment for humanity.
Yeah.
Where we're all just like rebirthing.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a gift.
I think that's a great way to frame it, because a lot of people still are looking at it with a very negative aspect, but there's always a silver lining with these types of moments. And just from a personal standpoint, I also took a lot of drastic actions and changes within my life. That started the year before COVID.
Yeah, same.
So I'm kind of glad that it happened just before.
Yeah.
Because I was able to really embody that you can make a change. You can improve yourself. You can improve your physical health. You can improve your mindset. And then you can improve your spirit. And I've thought about this before, but like, if I didn't take those actions to work on myself and have that amount of time, I'm not sure where I would be, because I feel like COVID kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of tunnel vision out there when certain things happened, and a lot of division between family members for whether you got the vaccine or not, and whether you were on the left or the right of politics. And so for me, I was able to really grasp a lot of different perspectives. I dove into this book called Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. I was listening to Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
Great book.
Yeah.
It's like a Bible.
I have it. Yeah, it's a Bible. I haven't read it all. I like open it to a random page. I'm like, okay, who am I going to learn from today?
So the beauty of that is it's this super thick book of a highly intelligent podcast interviewer that has interviewed such a wide spectrum of
leaders,
very intelligent leaders,
titans.
Titans. And so I was able to grasp like just so many different tools and techniques and perspectives, and I started to implement this into my own life. I started to meditate. I started to read every day. I started to write. I started to focus on how I was eating. It took a long time to get to a point where now I feel really pretty I would say my nutrition, fitness, everything just seems really in a good spot. And the community, Squatch, has really helped with that for accountability, but also just encouragement. Because some people are going to like a Planet Fitness downtown New York or somewhere in Boston, and you don't really get that like here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to be able to make these transitions in these defining moments during the pandemic, during this kind of social calamity, it's proven to kind of push you, or not even push you, but guide you into this path that seems to be aligned with who you are.
And that's really what's going to support you define your character. Who do you choose to be when times get tough?
Yeah.
Like that's a very character defining moment. And I really believe that's what separates Titans from, I don't even know what the other word would be, but it's like, okay, winds are shifting. This is hard. Who am I choosing to be right now? And I think going back to our initial conversation, that's what a lot of immigrants do. And I think that's what I was wired to do as an immigrant. It's like, this is hard. I don't speak the language. I went from middle class to poverty. What am I going to choose to do with this? Am I going to victimize myself and like tell myself that I can't do this and like put myself lower than everyone else? Or am I going to rise above, shift, create patterns, learn from get inspired and go all in because I have nothing to lose? Yeah.
So you started doing breath work around the time where there was the I can't breathe and pandemic and people were pretty concerned about their health in a degree that was much more significant, clearly because of the virus, but also, it's good to, I think it's really important. It's almost important that it happened because, I'm reading a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which seems to be a very popular book.
Yeah.
But I've also seen statistics and other resources of just the rate of obesity, depression, suicide, mental health, relationships, divorce rates. It's not really improving. But this virus, this pandemic has created this energy and different perspective for people to say something's really wrong. And so you stepping up and being a leader in this case, it's amazing. It's awesome to see.
You. Yes.
And so where did your life lead to once you started these breathwork classes?
Yeah. So one of the books that is coming to mind is the Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. And he talks about in his book, he talks about his experience in he used to be a really deep meditator. He would meditate for hours every day.
Oh, wow.
And that then later on, he became a professor at Santa Fe, at some university in Santa Fe. And that in his book, he talks about that when he was teaching his classes, he felt the same energy, the same mindfulness, the same presence when he was teaching. And I really resonated with that part of his book. Well, many parts, but that one really resonated with me because I realized that what my breathing practice supported me to do, once I was teaching it to others, I really felt like so much energy. Like it was quite unreal. It almost became like, whoa, I don't know what just happened. And to this day, when I have client sessions, I feel like we tune into a specific frequency together and it elevates me and it energizes me. And so outside of what unfolded, I would say that I began to really develop my own spiritual attunement and kind of like revitalize my faith to something greater than myself, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so then I told myself that I would devote to following that energy, moving forward, whatever that may lead. And And so after teaching breathing, I found this amazing coach, Elisa Nobriga, who is also specializes in somatic. You're reading The Body Keeps the Score. She specializes in somatic therapy. I did 1 year of training with her. And the reason why I'm calling this out is that if any of your audience members are looking, so maybe you're doing the thing and now you want to grow more, it's like looking for a mentor, someone that's already doing what you're doing and that is killing it, and that they've already done the thing and you can learn from their mistakes and accelerate your growth. So that's who Alyssa was for me. And I did 2 years of training with her, and that was life-changing. The first year was more inner transformation for me. And the second year, it felt like really understanding deeply the tools that I was learning as a coach. As a coach, I work with 5 levels. I work with the body, somatic, emotional, your feelings. It's all connected. Your mindset, your thoughts, your belief systems, somatic, emotional, mindset, behavioral, of course, your actions, and then unconscious levels of being. And so after doing 2 years of that, I decided to take on clients, and honestly, it came quite organically. I feel like when you start anything, you're like, who am I going to invite into my podcast, or how am I going to attract these people? But you'd be surprised just how people are excited, that people are attracted to your energy. And it's been 2 years of, like, since I got my certification of coaching, and I feel like I'm just starting. Yeah. I'm starting to really understand my own methodology outside of what I was trained to do. And I'm starting to really get aligned with my dream clients, my soulmate clients, and they're amazing people that I thought, and I tell you this also to you, Shane, like, don't be surprised if in a year you're going to have amazing, and I know I'm so honored to be your guest, but like the people that you're like, wow, I can't believe I have this Bitcoin leader sitting in this room, because that's who I'm serving right now. Is people that I put in a pedestal, and at the end of the day, they're just humans, and they're just as excited to do the things that you're doing as you are, and they see your energy, they see your excitement, your genuine authenticity. And so so now my clients are quite amazing. They're doing incredible things. They're really into crypto. I'm telling you, something in my future is related to crypto. I don't consider myself a crypto expert, but all my clients are really into crypto. I feel like they're they're leaders in that space too.
Yeah. So it's this new topic, this new industry, right? I specifically focus on Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And so people tend to, I get a different amount of feedback from people. Some of it's like, it seems their first judgment is like, is this guy just closed-minded? Does he not want to mess with all these other things? And then there's people that are curious, but there's also the mental models of, traditional finance. And we don't have to get too far into this, but traditional finance typically has clients diversify their portfolio. You don't keep all your eggs in one basket. And that's always been a good strategy. When I say I'm only involved with Bitcoin, like, I've made a pretty big commitment, not just with my beliefs and how I talk about it, but also with my job and with my own personal finances. And that's because I've done a certain amount of work with just obtaining hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah,
I would say
research.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one of your things about like Bitcoin performance being better than the stock market at some point, or something, like recent stock market, or
there's been a few years where it out competes every different index, S&P 500, Dow, but there's other moments where it's not. I think this 2022, we were in a bear market.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, it's, yeah, I don't want to get too far into Bitcoin specifically, but it's just been a commitment to understanding not just how much money can I make, what are the profits I can make on this, and some of these buzzwords that kind of float around, because there's a lot of dinos out there, which means, or stands for, decentralized in name only. So there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that espouse to be decentralized. Like that's the main innovation of Bitcoin.
I think you mentioned this to me in the past, and I did more research and I understood what you meant.
I can provide you with tons of resources too.
Yeah.
In the future, like I can bring you. I mean, the more you get curious about it, I'm here to provide you that.
I love that. I definitely see part of MetaMen evolving towards more financial empowerment.
Yeah.
In the future, it's a big part of our personal growth.
Yeah, that's why I'm very passionate about it, because in order for us to freely express ourselves, you need the time and the ability to, what people are doing is they're working, so they have an output of energy that then rewards them with money. They save that money, and then they can use that savings in the future to do what they want, what their soul tells them they want to do, whatever it may be. But when you learn about the money and you see how it's getting debased by a small group of people, and you realize that money is the connecting tissue between humanity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different, some people might be averse to money and they're just like, I don't want to be so focused on, but it is important. Like you do need to save money in order to pursue what you want to do, to expand MetaMen, to expand Squatch, to expand what I want to do. I need a little bit more money to be able to fulfill that eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool.
Yes, it's definitely a tool. And once you get farther into studying the history of money, human psychology, Bitcoin's objective properties, so properties being just factual information about it versus other cryptocurrencies, you start to realize that, this is the innovation. All the other dinos are just noise.
I totally feel you on that. And the same way that you feel about Bitcoin based on your research and your experience and your job, like you do this for a living, right? Like you're not just an aficionado, like you're in it. Right. You're in the industry. That's how I feel about the self-development industry. I don't know if they would call it dinos, but there's so many like healers, guides, coaches, and again, all well-intentioned. And I'm sure some of these dinos are like, they're really excited to create their thing. And I feel really strongly about the work that I do, just as you feel really strongly about Bitcoin and the work that you're doing, because the work that I'm doing is so sacred. Financial management is sacred. It's back to our survival. It's like it's about it's very personal. That I hear you on making sure that people are investing their energy and presence with people or avenues that are based with integrity. And alignment and a solid foundation, which is why, going back to what I talked to you about, what led to me being a coach, it's like I've been doing 2 years of training, and I consider myself a lifelong student because this is like really sacred work that I'm doing. So I appreciate you like feeling so strongly about like what you're doing, because it is such a personal, like, financial wealth, financial well-being. It is one of the pillars of human well-being. It's so easy to get just distracted by all the other things that are like in our face. That's how I feel about also in self-development. There's just so many things.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'm willing to, every time I hear or begin to speak to someone that, they're into all the other cryptocurrencies. I'm so willing to talk to them about it. It just takes a long time to discuss it. You have to you have to invest a decent amount of time. And I'm also willing, each time that I have these discussions, it just kind of proves to me do I really know this as well as I should.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to go out and tell people about this in the manner that I'm telling them, you have to continuously study and reinforce these principles and pieces of knowledge and actually put in the work of like using the Bitcoin network.
Mm-hmm.
So like I run my own
exactly like me doing my inner work, right? Like I'm not just gonna go. Yeah, I love that.
I run my own node, which not a lot of people might know what that means, but it's an important aspect of Bitcoin and keeping it decentralized. Hold your own keys. Like that's the beautiful part about Bitcoin, is that it's this decentralized monetary network that allows anybody to opt in and not get their financial savings censored by different nations, which has happened this past year and the year before in Canada.
Oh, I was gonna say
So it happened in Canada,
uh-huh,
which is very surprising.
crazy,
because it's technically, I don't love calling it third world or first world countries. I think it's like developed and developing.
Yeah, but Canada is not Argentina.
Right. So Canada, I mean, the fact that happened in Canada.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People protested and their bank accounts were just completely censored by the federal government.
It's crazy.
And it's also happened in I think Nigeria, different countries in Africa.
No, it's crazy. That happened to my mom once where because of immigration journey, something didn't match or something with her passport or something, and the bank wouldn't give her her money, her hard-earned money. That to the bank, it was like nothing, but to her, it was her life savings. We had to go through this whole process to like validate her identity. So yeah, I totally know. I feel you.
There's a beautiful book too. I mean, there's so many books that I could show you, but I think there's one that I would like to give you at some point, and it's by Alex Gladstein, and I think it's named Check Your Financial Privilege. So he specifically worked for the Human Rights Foundation, and there's so many cool people in the Bitcoin space that have different perspectives. Some specifically on energy resources, using volcano energy to mine Bitcoin.
Wow.
But then there's also,
I think I've heard of tires as well.
Tires?
Yeah, the tires produce really good energy.
Oh, okay, like the heat that comes from the friction or something? Okay.
Yeah, and like recycling tires.
I haven't heard if anybody's Bitcoin mining. Yeah, but then so Alex Gladstein, he speaks to different examples of, in the past couple years, of countries and citizens being censored through bank accounts being shut off.
It's crazy, yeah.
And so he's doing some amazing work, and I think that book will enlighten you and other people towards understanding Bitcoin, but also like why it's so important. Because no one in America, not no one, but like a good portion of people, they're just like, we've been free for so long, there's nothing to worry about. But there's been a few things I've noticed across the world, but also in America, that's made me pretty skeptical towards that freedom of expression in regards to how you transact. Anyways, we just got into Bitcoin, and I could talk about it all day.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
But it sounds like, you have clients that are in that space, but they're also trying to.
Yeah, and you know what? I've realized that there is a common denominator, and I use the word crypto, but really, like, one of my clients, he's an actual lawyer that helps crypto companies. I don't really know the details. I never asked them because I don't help them with their careers, but he calls himself a crypto lawyer. And then my other client, he hosts AI residencies, which is like a productivity house where not necessarily crypto, but a lot of like blockchain based companies, which, it doesn't have to be currency. They could be doing supply chain blockchain or like so many different uses of blockchain technology. Okay. So I use the word crypto, but really they're just tech focused. but anyways, I was gonna say that I noticed that people in Bitcoin or in this new wave of decentralization
Mm-hmm.
have the common denominator of wanting to create a new world, a new way of being.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use the word, they're quite conscious. They're heart-centered. I'm not saying all of them, but I've noticed that
Mm-hmm.
a big portion of the people are wanting to free the people, are wanting to create a new way of living for humans.
Mm-hmm.
And that really excites me. And that's why I love supporting people that want to do this one way or another, whether that is Bitcoin or AI or marketing. I have a marketing client. Like, just, I love working with people that are innovating and want to change the world,
Mm-hmm.
that realize that whatever we're doing right now is not working so well. So let's try to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it's important that people have that striving to aspire to be the best versions of themselves and to push for change. And I also think it's important, though, to be really ethical with how you bring change, because there's a lot of people that want to bring change and they bring change in a pretty more detrimental way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty cool that you're able to have these clients, or however you want to, your mentees.
No, they're clients or friends, or they're people. I don't consider myself a mentor. I consider myself, again, a supporter. Like, I'm the person that you're gonna call me when, whether things are high or things are low. I'm here to help you presence your emotions, to be with them, to resource your own wisdom. I'm never gonna tell you what to do. It's more of like, let's regulate, let's connect with your wisdom, with your truth. What is true about this moment? What is true about you? And what are you choosing to do with this truth?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really beautiful to be that supporter for them, because, again, I really believe in their mission and what they're doing. So
Yeah, well, you're doing just amazing work. What you're doing is really important.
thank you.
Very important.
Yeah.
So you didn't, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't fly just from Colombia to Austin. You went somewhere else, right?
I flew from Colombia to Houston.
To Houston, okay.
H-Town. Yeah. Went to Houston. Would live there for Katy, which was really the suburbs. Lived there all of my teenage years, and then went to college in College Station.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been living in Texas for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you move to Austin?
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I was here for 5 years. I moved to California for part of it, of those 5 years, but then moved back immediately. it was mid-COVID. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna wear all these masks and like do all these things. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm out.
California's a beautiful state. I've never been.
What?
I've never been personally, but
what? Okay, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. I've heard all about it. But in regards to the restrictions,
yeah, it was crazy
by New York, and specifically like New York and California.
Yeah.
They were.
I think
brutal.
I recently saw a stat that they were the two states with the most population decrease. And Florida and Texas were the ones that had the highest.
I don't know. So I've seen a couple things on the internet, but I've also heard it personally that California and New York are advertising to not come to Austin.
No,
like this legitimate like billboard.
Yeah,
that said don't move there. And I think I heard like some legislators or some people wanted to put a super large tax on California residents that wish to leave. So if you chose to leave, it'd be like, well, for the next 10 years, you're gonna pay $5,000 per year.
That's
so it's almost like, so you're telling me like I'm enslaved to this geographic jurisdiction. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's because like they need the taxes to support.
Yeah, people are moving out, and I'm really thankful that we're here in Austin. I really believe that this is the Mecca for innovation, for health and wellness, for expansion of consciousness. Like, as a coach and a guide, like I'm surrounded by other coaches and guides of all sorts. And for you too. So I'm really thankful. Shout out Austin. And if you want to move here, it's totally okay. Yeah. Seriously, like people are like, no, move to Austin, housing, whatever. I'm like, if you're an innovator and creator, let's just build a new world.
Yeah. It's funny you say the Mecca for conscious leaders or whatever it may be in regards to health and wellness. We've actually deemed it the Mecca for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin capital of the world.
I've met a couple of Bitcoin people that moved from Miami to here because they thought that Miami was a place, and they're like, nope, it's in Austin.
Miami is more into the
dinos?
Altcoins. Yeah, the dinos. I was going to say shit coins, but we use the term shit coins or altcoins. Sometimes people get offended by shit coins. So dinos, I think, is actually more productive because people are like, well, what do you mean? And then you're like, well, decentralized in name only. And they're like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well,
shit coins. In short,
it's shit coins.
Yeah.
But so you have been in
Texas most of my life.
You've been in Austin for 5 years.
Yeah, for 5 years. And the birth of MetaMen started because of this community and culture. Here at Squatch, we have such incredible leaders and people. And I just was like, wow, like I have so many incredible men around me. And being a coach in the beginning, I started coaching women. I told myself, but I want all these men to be part of what I'm doing. I want to support them. And that's what inspired me to start MetaMen. To connect with other leaders, innovators, and creators that also prioritize their own emotional well-being and being a female coach supporting men has been really beautiful. And I realized inspiring for other female coaches around me. So really thankful to be part of like a city where we're always willing to question the status quo or what's normal. And I feel like that's why also MetaMen has had really good growth. I mean, it's just been 1 year, but like I noticed how excited people are to join us because it's not just men supporting men, it's men, women, and just people that have like really beautiful energy. So
yeah, I really appreciate your leadership and guiding, us men to become more emotionally intelligent and balanced and grounded. I don't know if I've told you this before. My mother passed when I was like 3 years old. So I've had some mother figures in my life and currently, but you've been a figure that's, since I've known you and since I've attended MetaMen and been going to Squatch, you've been this feminine presence that has really helped me.
Thank you.
A lot.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's really what I felt was my calling. Right now in this moment, I had a moment where I looked around and I was like, I'm surrounded by all these amazing men. Why am I limiting myself to just supporting women? I want to support men too. And then after the first MetaMen, it just clicked. And now I'm seeing the larger vision of bringing people that are questioning the status quo, that are willing to just, again, I really call it like a new earth. We're creating a new world and bringing them together. Like really the vision that I have for MetaMen in the future is a place where leaders congregate, exchange ideas, cross-pollinate. Yes, like we'll take care of our bodies, mind, spirit, of course, because the fact that you prioritize that already tells me that you're a conscious leader. And let's just learn from one another. let's learn about Bitcoin. How can we, seriously, like how can I apply Bitcoin into my business, into my marketing business? How can I incorporate breath work in my daily practice? Just different ways that we can cross-pollinate and collaborate with other leaders while also leading from that place of nourishment. I feel that we're also making that shift post-COVID where we're no longer leading from that place of burnout and grind and low self-worth. Like I want to support leaders in really leading from a place of, I love myself so much. I feel so good inside that I can't wait to share this with the world. So that's really what I hope my clients and the people at 10 Metamen do. And as you said, like build that momentum, just like you had with your podcast. It's like, I feel freaking great. I can't wait to start my podcast. Yeah,
you said it's that you want to see the evolution of Metamen do this, but it's already doing it.
Yeah, it's already doing
it. It's already happening. I've been able to spread my knowledge of Bitcoin and specifically the tools and, how I'm operating with it and the knowledge that I have, but also I forgot the gentleman's name, but he went to the last one with the ice bath.
Adam.
Adam, yeah. And he was just chatting with Noah, and Noah was just kind of giving him some tips on building this company. Because he's just like, Adam's just kicking it off.
Yeah.
And when I first came to Austin, it felt like the ice bath was just Austin. But I think it's spreading elsewhere.
It's spreading.
So that
with Huberman and
so
Joe Rogan.
Huberman and Joe Rogan and these different like huge podcasts, they're recommending it. So I think it's a great product. Because one, it's like you're building something that's helping people with their nervous systems, resetting their nervous systems or mental fortitude and
everything.
And it's like you are gonna sell these things. You just got to figure out how to build a business.
And there's not a lot of competition out there. Now it's starting to grow, but it's still not saturated.
Yeah, it's still not that
There's like
saturated.
3 products.
So, so like I was talking to him about Bitcoin, then he was talking about his business, and Noah was giving him tips because Noah's been building his business.
This is called corridor talk. Like that corridor talk where they're like this. I love to hear that. Yeah. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
So I want to create more environments for that. And right now it just feels centered towards men. I do believe that I'm not saying that men need it most, but I do feel really called to supporting specifically men right now, and it's something that has aligned really well to create more brotherhood. And at the end of the day, I do, as even though women are rising, and I as a woman I want to see more women rise. As my engineer mind or my optimization brain was like, okay, at the end of the day, like who's leading the world right now? If I'm just 100% honest with myself, and how can the experiences that I curate for leaders, how can they influence more opportunity for women now that men are also feeling more whole within, more in tune with their feminine? Yeah. So it was a little bit of strategic that way too. If I walk into a Bitcoin conference, would you say it's like 70% men or, So I do want to empower women to step into leadership. And I think there's a lot of women doing that already. And I love that. And I looked at I looked at them and was like, yes. And I also want to support the leaders right now to be more heart-centered and soul-centered and, connected to their wholeness.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing, the evolution of Metamen, seeing how it grows.
Yes.
I mean, I love how it is right now. It doesn't have to change.
Yes.
It's small. Yeah. It's small too.
I like small. I want to keep it small. I want to keep it tribal. And I think that if it were to ever scale, it would look more of a community in different areas of the U.S. the experience itself, I think it's absolutely perfect. Keeping it small, tribal,
It's more
connected,
intimate. It's
intimate. It feels like you're just with your buddies in a summer camp.
Yeah.
And ideally more facilitators and leaders that want to create the same experience. But yeah, little by little, we'll see where it evolves. We're doing a Big Bend hike
You were telling me that, yeah.
in March.
March when?
March 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated. It's going to be incredible.
I haven't been to Big Bend yet.
It's my dream come true because I can't tell you how much my life has changed every time I do a really long hike.
Yeah.
Every time I do a really long hike, I've had some of my deepest spiritual moments where I'm literally crying and praying, just feeling like so thankful because you're just reaching that point of tiredness, but then the vastness of nature surrounding you. I mean, there's one of them. It's my church, 100%. And so we're going to do 3 days of hiking, 9 miles each day, camping, stargazing, campfire. I know that the transformation that's going to be in that experience, I can't even describe it. And so that's what I want to continue to create, just like nature, community experiences that like change your life and that connect you with other leaders as well, and then spark ideas for your next podcast episode, but then you meet the other person that's already a podcaster and you guys create an episode together. So yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah.
Is it during a weekend or?
It's a weekend. Yeah, you'd have to take a day off.
Yes, I'm actually taking some time off in March.
Nice.
I am going to Costa Rica.
Ooh, for what?
You know Jay?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
when?
From the 4th to the 12th.
Okay.
He's got a men's retreat, and it's the first time
you're gonna go on a journey within ayahuasca. Yeah, I keep hearing about Jay's retreats.
This is his 7th. So
yeah,
he's been doing it for, I don't think actually that long. So like this is his 7th, but he's been like, I think last year he did 3 or 4.
Where in Costa Rica?
Oh man,
it's okay. You don't know, but yeah.
Exactly, I don't know. I mean, it's in the jungle.
Yeah,
it's deep in the jungle. It seems.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is his 7th. A big part of my ability to expand and learn, specifically Bitcoin, but also just my own consciousness and what I'm just learning about how to eat better.
I think in your second episode, you talked about Bitcoin being a expansion of consciousness, right? Or
well, the last one,
the last one. That's what it was.
Yeah,
anyways,
so that
keep going. That just came through because I was like, Bitcoin is an expansion of consciousness.
Episode 6 is pretty damn
She's
interesting.
amazing. She's a PhD.
She's a psychologist. She also is a journalist.
Yeah, highly recommend anyone watching this to
it's
watch
pretty
that
damn
one.
cool.
Okay, you were saying?
So when I started to learn about Bitcoin, but also health, wellness, expanding just the content on Twitter. Like I was reading books about Bitcoin and other stuff, but then I expanded towards Twitter. And not even just Bitcoin, but it was also like just other ways of optimizing your life was on Twitter. And Instagram has it too, but it was just unique there. And I found first a profile. It was Zach Homel. Very interesting leader. He inspires me, and I hope to see him in the near future, but also do retreats with him. But he's like best friends with Jay. So I followed Jay, I believe, before I even moved here.
Oh.
And so
on Twitter.
And then I moved here, and I'm going through my feed, and I see Jay posting stuff, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I think lives in the same apartment complex as me.
Wow.
And so he lives in the same apartment complex. I saw him by the pool one day and just told him, because I knew what he was doing. Like he was doing the retreats at that point. I just told him, hey man, like I love what you're putting out there. I love your message, your leadership, what you're doing for men. these ayahuasca retreats look really cool, and like they can break the barrier of growth internally in a way that you might not be able to do. You might be able to do it in the long term, but in the short term, this is like some kind of plant medicine intelligence that can just help with your own growth. And so that was a year and a half ago. And so I kind of pushed it to the side for a bit. My buddies, Chris and Nate, I go to the gym with them all the time. They both did it.
I know them. Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure. They both did it, and
They're
they've
like-
had profound, it seems that they've taken a lot away from it. I've heard other people talk about it. I did another men's group with Jay specifically, but it was just like Zoom calls.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the men that were in those Zoom calls had already done his retreat, or they
Yeah.
were doing it soon. And all of them were like, this was one hell of an experience.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm doing it.
Wow, I'm excited for you.
I'm excited too.
And
Yeah.
as you may have already heard from many teachers, and I'm assuming Jay too, it's like with this medicine, any medicine, it's, and my retreats too, my retreats are medicine, is how do you take this and incorporate it in your day-to-day life? These lessons, these teachings.
So the integration.
How do you apply this into your life? This big awakening, this removing the veil and seeing your truth, seeing your deepest fear, seeing your deepest, I hear people revisiting deepest traumas, unconscious traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you take this for healing and integrate it in your life in your day to day? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm pondering on too, because I'm taking a week, and then I took the Monday off, but I'm thinking maybe I should take more time off.
Take
after
the
that.
week off. Seriously. And then you get back to it. But it's like,
So yeah, I'm hopping right back into work. After
yeah.
that, pretty much. So I might.
Or maybe a couple of days off.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I'm excited for you to experience this.
But yeah,
Mhm.
so after that, I'm down to go to Big Bend.
Yeah, that could be a really good integration too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The next MetaMen is in February.
19th. Yes, February 19th. Really excited. I've been intentionally hanging out at Capital Factory, which is a startup accelerator here in Austin, Texas. I'm really looking to bring in more tech founders. I feel like people in our community are already very involved. They're already very taking care of their health and wellness. And we're already doing saunas and ice baths. And I think there's an opportunity to bridge the gap between health and well-being and tech. So I've got a couple tech founders coming. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm looking forward to like merge more of those communities.
Yeah. Is Noah
Noah's going to co-facilitate.
okay. Yeah.
Really excited for him to step into leadership. And I want to see, that's also the vision. The vision is like, as this grows, I want to see more members, attendees, community members stepping into leadership, like you hosting a Bitcoin one-on-one workshop in one of the 7-day retreats where it's like, okay, these are the pillars of well-being. There's financial, there's emotional, there's relationships. That's what I see also as it begins to grow and evolve more. But yeah, Noah will be leading a portion of it.
Yeah, I look forward to this one. I think I'm just going to keep going every single quarter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the world.
I mean, the place too. So in San Marcos,
The place
the name of that retreat,
so
what was the name of it?
Samadhi nature retreat or yoga retreat. It's really beautiful. Really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're just tucked away in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You're able to go on this like dirt path, and
Yeah.
it's just when you go on the deck, you can just look out, and there's just not a lot of. It's pretty rural. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, it's a
out there in the
beautiful
woods.
hill country retreat center with a huge pyramid cabin.
Yeah, that pyramid too.
The pyramid is insane. I've never seen anything like it anywhere. And yeah, it's really powerful.
So that's something that I think is unique to the sound ceremonies, whatever you want to call them. That
sound healing, sound baths. Yeah.
And I'm misremembering her name.
Lyria.
Lyria.
Lyria. Kylie.
Yeah, so she's doing these different. So the flute, and she's doing some other.
She's playing two kinds of flutes. One of them is like this wooden carved like native flute.
Yeah.
And then crystal bowls, and then chimes, and.
But it was interesting that when she did it, because she's doing it in the pyramid, right? So I've only done a couple of these sound ceremonies or baths, whatever you want to call them, sound nourishment, and the fact that it's in this pyramid, the way that the echoes of the music, very interesting.
Yeah, it's incredible.
How you're laying down, you're listening to her do it, and the rings or whatever you want to call it,
the sound, how it's traveling and resonating, the acoustics, the geometric shape of the pyramid, I'm sure influences how the sound travels. It's a temple.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you've got Ty before that doing some kind of somatic body movement.
Yeah, that's quite powerful to just release and move. And I feel like we don't move a lot. We can be even if we work out, this is our movements most of the time. Right. And Ty really like challenges you to move beyond that. I think that a lot of men specifically don't move their bodies very fluidly quite frequently. So it's like,
well, it seems like it's a feminine thing.
To just move your body and let the flow of energy guide you through it, and let go of the part of you that it's like, this is embarrassing, rigid, or this is silly, or I
was like kind of nervous for the first time I did it, but once we got into it, Ty did a fantastic job. Just like understanding that men are usually going to be uncomfortable stepping into it, but it's not like you're doing anything like
you're not like twerking or something.
Yeah, you're not twerking. But Ty, if you want to do twerking next time, go ahead.
Yeah.
But he does an amazing job. And then we do the ice baths prior.
Ice baths, then the sound, ice bath movement, and the sound, and all of this recipe came together in my mind really, because I was like, all the things that have helped me. And then we ended with a coaching session, and then a mastermind, and I'm continuing to iterate and improve the experience with everyone's feedback. But yeah, so far it's been really powerful. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I had a question for you when I was going through your website. How you've navigated from these external accomplishments that felt like survival tasks you need to do. You needed to get a good job. You needed to go to a good school. You needed to make a decent amount of money. For me, I think I've personally improved to an extent and degree much quicker, exponentially than ever since I've moved here and gone to Squatch.
Yeah.
Something that I like to ask people is, if you've, since you were a child, been motivated and taught that external accomplishments, whether they are a degree or a certification at a law firm, or it is materialistic stuff, it's a big house. How are you able to kind of get past that? And I might already know the answer, at least for myself, but like just being able to deal with society's kind of push for you're measured by your external accomplishments in regards to like the job that you have and all that. How are you able to really embody that? I don't care too much about that. It's more, enlightening my own or nourishing myself and my soul.
Yeah. I think there's one or two ways. And I forget what the name for the other one is, but usually we wake up through satori, which is like an aha moment, an enlightenment, or through pain. And so sometimes you got to lose it all. You got to lose the job. You got to go through the breakup. You got to go through the pain, the abyss, where you have no other choice in that moment but to say, like, you know what, I'm gonna try something, whatever this is not working for me. I recently had dinner with my friend Chris, who was telling me his divorce story. That was his abyss, going through a divorce, and him realizing, like, okay, I'm actually going to start choosing things that feel good, choose the partner that feels good, choose the job that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say sometimes it can be through pain. Life just, if you're going through one of those moments where you're going through a breakup, you lost a job. I know a lot of people are losing jobs right now. Through something that feels that you're failing or that things are going wrong, that's the perfect opportunity to choose something different, to recreate and reinvent yourself. Now, the other one is through your own aha moments. So to be willing to experiment in small or big ways. This is going to sound funny, but actually my first way of experimenting going against society was in college. I decided to be vegan for like 2 years. No longer vegan. But that was the first time that I questioned my eating habits. How many of us don't even question what we're eating? I was willing to question and go against it. I'm like, let's just try this. And I remember, like, veganism beyond, it was when everyone became a vegan at that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? There was like a wave of veganism. Yeah. Somewhat. But that taught me to say no to something that everyone was doing. Mm-hmm. And that was powerful. Because I was like, wow, like saying no. Every time someone offered me a meal, no, thank you. Every time I go to a restaurant, look for. So that helped me say no to those things. Similar to people that quit drinking or Bitcoin itself. So experimenting that way as well, to reinvent yourself. But yeah, share with me your insights. What has supported you in going against what society does?
Yeah, I'm not, you don't want to specifically be like, oh, I just want to go against everything, right? But if there's a realization or a sense of awareness, you're like, I'm doing this because society tells me I need to do it.
Yeah.
You're not just
it's
trying
that
to
aha moment.
Yeah, you're not trying to push against the grain just because it's like I want to be different than everybody. Like for me, I think I learned from my father. He was always very like just naturally funny, curious, and authentic, I believe. And so I learned that kind of from him.
Yeah.
But also still pain. Yeah, it was pain. It was
your biggest teacher.
Biggest teacher. Yeah, I mean, I started to smoke and drink, so smoke weed and drink at a pretty young age, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And that was like the attachment towards social hangouts. And I was very social. And that's all we would do pretty much once we got to a point. Don't get me wrong, like we would still play sports and bike and snowboard and stuff. But drinking and smoking had a lot of involvement with that stuff. Now, those two things, they're not as bad as cocaine or some kind of pharmaceuticals or whatever. But they still do affect the growth of your brain.
Yeah, 100%. It's relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was just, it's this mental and emotional attachment towards it. Liquid courage for certain like uncomfortable moments in your life. And that carried on from high school into college. But it got pretty negative for me, at least in college. It was all I did. I passed. I got my degree. But I was just partying, and my sense of self-worth went downhill because I partied way too much. And I would get way too drunk and high and having like anxiety or the morning after depression, and being with women that I just met that night.
Yeah.
Like it would just slowly, these actions didn't make me feel like I was taking care of myself. Definitely wasn't. And yeah, I mean, I was not nice to my body and mind, but a part of it wasn't like I just wanted to inflict, pain on myself. It was just like, I was very social. It was just a part of the social interactions that I had, but it got excessive and I didn't know when to stop sometimes. Once I graduated, I got a job. I was in restaurants. I was working all the time. So that excessive amount of hours working kind of took me away from doing that stuff. But still, that culture, hospitality restaurants, people can drink, and people will smoke and do stuff. So I was working a lot of hours and I was still drinking a decent amount. I kind of stopped smoking weed around that time, but I was still drinking. And and then I just, I got some promotions. I was doing well in my job and traveling from Florida to Maine and beautiful parts of the United States. But it got to a breaking point where I was just pushing myself too much. I knew this job was not meant for me. And I was also in my first pretty serious relationship. It was 2+ years. And the way that we started the relationship was through the attachment of drinking in my eyes.
Yeah, I've been in a relationship.
It was kind of like the
that in
anchor.
past.
Yeah, it was kind of like the anchor.
It's like how you connect.
Yeah. And so eventually, this is when I started reading Tim Ferriss's book and his podcast. Started implementing meditation. I started implementing reading.
Right.
But I was like, wow, I have to make big changes right now. So I left the job and the relationship.
Yep.
All at pretty much the same time.
Me
and
too.
It wasn't really, unfortunately, it wasn't like a rough separation.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't totally smooth.
Yeah, no, it's never
not
easy
yeah.
to separate yourself from your best friend at the moment.
Yeah, and so I ended up moving back home. I was 25 and did all those things. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? It was strong. It was a strong thing to do. It was a difficult thing to do. And still you did it so that you can focus on the future of improving yourself and your character.
Yeah.
But in the present moment, it felt terrible.
Yeah.
You're just wow, I separated from my girlfriend, my job that was giving me this idea that you're going to be in line to do pretty well.
Yeah.
And then, you move back with your parents too.
I did that too. Me too. I did that too.
So
broke up with my partner, broke up with the job. I was like, I'm going to have to move back with my parents.
Yeah.
And I was really thankful for that time too.
Oh, same. I had I think around 4 to 5 or 6 months where I wasn't even working.
Yeah, me too.
I was reading, I was meditating, I was exercising, and I was able to really build momentum from that point.
Yeah, and I got closer to my parents too.
Yeah, same. So pain and knowing that I'm able to make a decision to change my life for the better and to serve myself. The fact that I did that, knowing that I can do it, enabled me to have a lot of trust and belief in myself. And there's been a couple other points since then where I've just manifested something. It's I'm moving to Austin and I'm going to work for this company. That's a small company too. And I was telling a friend, this is what I want to do so bad. I applied. I'm interviewing with them. And then eventually we were just connecting on Instagram, but she was like, how have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I was I'm moving to Austin and I got the job. And she was like, you manifested it. You told me you wanted to do all of this and you pursued and you did it. So going back to the question was how do you just honor yourself instead of keeping up with the Joneses?
Yeah.
It's through pain. A big part of it was through pain.
through pain and making really difficult decisions. And if anyone can take anything away from this specific podcast in your episode, because we've talked about this over and over again, is take that leap, take that risk in this moment. If there's a part of you that feels that relationship's no longer in alignment with you, that the job that you're in is no longer in alignment with you, even in a recession, taking that risk will provide your mind the evidence. So what I'm hearing for me personally too is that when I said no to those things, I created space for what was going to be a yes in my life. And yeah, there's this weird in-between period where you're like catching stability again, like I don't have the job, I don't have the relationship, or whatever other foundation you previously had. And that in-between time is where you're forging your new self, and it's part of the transition. But then when you say no to those things, you create space for what you're calling in your life. And that's when you wake up. I realize in myself and in my clients is that when you start saying no, you start telling the unit, by saying no to the things that are not in alignment, you're saying yes to the things that are in alignment. So life would create more of that. And that's when you begin to wake up to your own ability to co-create with life, that you no longer have to choose things that are not in alignment with you ever again. And that's quite powerful. Yeah, you can choose what you like, especially, again, I keep saying, if you live in the US, like you can choose. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And disclaimer too. I mean, I was, single. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
Right. And so like,
well, yeah, if you're in our demographic, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, single, like this is the time for you to leave.
Go
for
fucking
sure.
do it.
And even if you have kids, I'm telling you guys, like I know there's a lot of responsibility there. My parents did it. They took the leap. They took the leap, and it wasn't easy, but it made us such strong children.
Right.
So I do think it's possible.
To piggyback off the disclaimer, it doesn't mean if you're in your 30s or if you're in your 40s or even 50s, at any point in your life, you can make a decision that will make you feel more aligned, more empowered. Yeah. There's never, you have at any moment in your life to be able to do that. It sounds like super cliche and like a,
Yeah, most cliche things are like universal truths.
They are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So some of the people that I'm friends with here at Squatch, they understand meditation, breath work. They get the benefits, but there's some people that I know, and just for a person that's never done meditation or breath work, how would you go about telling them? Because you mentioned on your website it's a secret tool.
Yeah.
How do you explain it like I'm 5, or at least like a very special way of describing it to people, that how it can benefit them? Because a lot of people, there's some people that won't be able to. They might think it's like woo woo or.
Yeah, because it does come from like some Eastern spiritual practices, but modern day meditation and breath work is a tool for you to experience presence in your body and in this moment. And the power of presence, physiologically, your nervous system is regulated and is feeling safe. So just starting with like the physiological benefits of oxytocin, serotonin, like you just feeling good. Presence feels good in your body. Emotionally, you are in tune with yourself. And at a mindset level, when you're truly, truly present, you're not grasping to fear or false thoughts that come and go. And so if I were to describe breath work is my secret tool, because I remember when I first tried meditation, I would just sit and be like, what is this? Like, how am I going to do this? And, ADHD, hyperactive, stimulative, like I'm always, this is why I love retreats, because it's like, it's a madness. I love doing many things at once. I'm cooking, I'm
Mm-hmm.
facilitating, I'm creating cacao. That's like my playground because I need a lot of stimulation. So I get it. If you sit in meditation and you're like, this is not for me. The reason why I really loved breath work at first was, oh, wait, I can use my breath to pay attention to my body in this moment. And so breathing and meditation go hand in hand. So what I always tell, if you are 5-year-old level of language, is like, this is a secret tool for you to train your mind to anchor into this present moment, to anchor, also to train your heart, to train your body on how to be still and feel safe and connected. And from that place of presence, you make really good choices.
Mm-hmm.
You can manifest things in your life if you desire. You can plant intentions, get creative ideas. So if you wanted to start a meditation or breathwork practice, quite simple. Definitely sit. I highly recommend the typical meditation pose. Just play with it. There's a reason why this has been a well-known just meditation practice. This meridian points in Chinese medicine are meant for focus, actually. But there's different. This is called a mudra. There's different mudras, but this is the most basic one. This is meant to increase your focus. Even the placebo effect. Imagine that this helps you with focus, and just slow down your breath, and that can be your meditation. Just slow down your breath. Focus on your breath. Focus on the breath going through your nose and your belly. And I promise you that if you do that every single day, just for a few moments, you're going to notice the shift. Even right before your podcast, right before you're going to have a difficult conversation with your partner or your parents, try that and see how different your response is to life, external experiences.
Yeah, well said. I've been meditating since I was, I think, just before I turned 25. So it's been almost 5 years now. And it's done wonders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed my life. It's changed who I am as a person. Yeah. And the unique thing about it is, if I want to be creative, or if I want ideas that will provide me with some creative activity, it's amazing how just sitting there and doing nothing will bring those ideas. People think they need to think their way to those creative ideas.
It is so powerful that you say that. Yes.
But it's nuts. Like, you sit there.
You create a soundbite, make it this one. Yes.
Yeah, well,
I agree completely. If we can just sit in stillness, we're an open vessel for ideas to flow. We don't need to think about the ideas. They will come.
Right. Yeah, it's like the muse. Something that I've noticed. And whenever I need to just relax before a podcast, or if it's for something at work that might bring some resistance or fear, or maybe it's, a conversation you don't want to have. You just sit down and meditate. It most likely will make what you're intending on doing that might be difficult for you, the outcome of how you facilitate it is going to be much better. But a lot of people don't like doing it. I mean, I think it's growing.
It's growing for
There's
sure.
There's apps you can use, which you don't really need an app.
I was going to say that.
It's helpful for people to.
But it's helpful if you like apps.
You've got people that really need that meditation. The apps will maybe be like, oh, there's an app.
I'm just like, unplug your phone. Like, this is the point of meditation, but I get it. If it's hard and the app really helps you, that's great. I know that for myself, I'm already on my phone so much that I just want to take it out and just focus on me. Otherwise, I'm like, let me take my Instagram.
Yeah, I love how you've been able to just, like, we did that today, but for the community workout, Squatch had the community workout.
Yeah.
And that's how we started. We just did some interesting breath work. So I've always just done, you sit there and you breathe naturally, just normally.
Yeah.
But lately I've been doing different forms.
Consciously.
So
regulating
like
yourself.
Wim Hof.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, if you are, like, there's certain moments where my mind is just going, right? Like just going all like just aggressively, not aggressively, but just at a very fast pace.
Me too.
And doing that Wim Hof breathing, just physiologically, it seems like it's calming down. I'm not really sure what's happening.
So you're overstimulating your sympathetic nervous system. When we're overthinking, we're in that performance sympathetic, like fight or flight response, and that doesn't mean it's bad. You're just like, especially if after work, like I know that after I'm like a really good session of work, I'm like still thinking about meta and the next detail, and like it's almost like exciting, especially if you love what you're doing. For some people, it may not be the same, but shutting that off sometimes can be hard. So what Wim Hof will do. And I like to use the analogy of sex because you're basically stimulating your breath and your nervous system to overdrive. And what it'll do is that then it'll shift your nervous system to parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, which is similar to a climax after sex. After you have sex, you're like so relaxed. That's literally what Wim Hof does. It like stimulates. It's kind of like you're meeting this frequency of your mind with more of that and almost like overpowering it until it shuts down.
Wow.
So that's the analogy I like to use, and people are like, "Oh, that makes sense." Okay.
Well, it's definitely gonna catch people's attention.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying breathwork is just like sex? Well, not exactly, but
yeah, but you do have that like release of oxytocin, release of just meditative state, and that's what you're doing with the breath. So that's beautiful that you use that as well to just ground yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been such a great practice, and I don't think I'll ever stop. It's going to be a practice I'll do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's one of those things for life.
One thing I noticed, something that you say on your website, is that spirituality and science is coming together. So wondering if you could dive into that and give examples of what you've observed.
Yeah. So you talked to your father is a big influence in your life. My father is a huge influence in my life. My dad is obsessed with quantum physics and quantum mechanics. And so I grew up with my dad teaching me the names of quantum particles and, you know, the fabric of the universe and the fabric of reality itself. And so I grew up learning the science of spirituality in some ways. I am by no means a quantum physics expert. And so when I say that science and spirituality are merging together is that we're starting to have visibility when we talk about faith and, you know, you in spirituality, you know, you being the creator of your world and reality, like quantum physics validates that in terms of the observer shifting the state of a particle, whether it's a wave in a particle, and how like the observer itself actually influences the state of the particle. So I feel like we're starting to dive into the science of spirituality. And that's why I believe that things are coming together. Similar with breath work. Like breath work has been around for centuries, like before Christ, Vedic like pranayama comes from like the Vedas, which is like I don't even know how many years, but I want to say 5,000, 3,000 years before Christ. But and now we have the science behind the breath by James Nestor, who just published his book, and now breathwork is becoming a thing, and seeing Wim Hof has a little research. So I think that we're coming to a place where technology science is helping us see that what ancient civilizations or what spirituality has been talking about, we now have a way of proving it through science.
It's very interesting. Yeah. I love how it's seemingly becoming a focus here in Austin. And that's something that when it comes to your mind and body, that's a focus I've had. But spirituality may be lacking. Well, it's lacking for me, but I'm not sure how many people in the world right now are lacking some kind of spiritual practice.
Yeah.
So I think
and science will, in my opinion, I don't know if science will ever be able to like give us a formula of like what
no,
God is, but
no.
some of these things are just felt.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see. I think the next topic I want to dive into, we've been going on for a little bit here.
I was gonna tell you.
We've been doing it for.
You let me know.
Do you have anything going on, or?
I do at 4.
What time is it?
3:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I have these questions that I ask. A few.
Okay.
There's one. What is something you believe that other people think is insane?
Let's see.
And if you don't have an answer, I have other questions, but.
Well, the thing is that we surround with ourselves with people that like things that people consider insane or not insane.
Yeah, we're in a pretty unique community.
So but let's say for the masses, things that I consider, what was the question again?
What is something you believe that other people think is insane? You could say, the masses.
Honestly, like ice baths have changed my life. And a lot of people think I'm insane for doing ice baths.
Oh, no.
The other day, that's why it's part of MetaMen. The other day, I flew from Costa Rica, and the guy next to me, I'm pretty sure he had COVID, or he had something. He was coughing, just like the next day I was feeling sick, and I was like, crap, this guy probably gave me whatever he had. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let this take over my body. So I fought my cold with the cold. I was like, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to do ice baths. And I did ice baths, and this is no medical advice, but it 100% healed me. Like I did ice baths twice a day for 3 days, and my cold was gone, and it never got bad. Along with vitamin C and some other things. But I'm a true believer of ice baths for anything. My friends make fun of me. They're like, Michelle, you think everything's solved with that? I'm like, yeah, you need an ice bath. You need an ice bath. You need an ice bath. So
yeah, no, ice baths have been transformational for me. Not even just like with mental clarity, but yeah, the physiological feeling that you get afterwards too is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be my concluding question.
Okay.
If you could have one gigantic billboard in an area within the world where the most eyes could see them.
Okay.
But you only really have a sentence or two. What would be the message that you send?
Take a deep breath.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
That's it.
Simple.
Just a small reminder. I think our choices, our life, our perspective in this moment can shift with just a deep breath. And it's so simple, but if we can, that's what my breathing practice has shown me, and why I'm so passionate about sharing it is that it is that simple, and it is available to us. And at any moment right now, I can just take a breath and speak from this place of presence, and it will shift immediately the way that I respond to things. And so if I had a giant billboard, I just want to remind everyone to breathe, because maybe right now in this moment that's simple, but when life gets chaotic, we forget to just, that there's this powerful tool, that there's this powerful practice or resource for us to shift our state of being. So I'll say take a deep breath. Just a reminder. Take a deep breath. It's like, okay. It's a great sign.
I love it. Michelle, thank you so much.
Thanks,
This was the first podcast episode where I barely used my notes. I was able to just
let it flow. Yeah, it's going to continue to get better and better. Thanks for having me here. Love to witness your growth, and I'm excited to see just how much you educate people through your podcast. I look forward to educating myself too. So,
yeah, thank you very much. And super happy we were able to do it at the Squatch Radio Room.
Squatch.
Shout out to Squatch.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
They can find me through my website,
Mhm.
Michelle Florez, florez.com,
Mhm.
or my Instagram, Michelle Andrea, my middle name Andrea Florez. So IG or my website.
No Twitter?
No, that's my. As you were saying that, I'm like, I need to start
You
a
should
Twitter.
do a Twitter, yeah.
And
growing pretty
you're the
popular.
second person that told me this. So I'm like, all right, let's do a Twitter. And I prefer Twitter over TikTok personally. So I'm like, okay, let's do Twitter. A lot of my clients are in Twitter because they're, so
Cool.
Twitter is the next thing.
Well, I will link that in the show notes.
Thank you.
But
Thanks, Shane.
thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.